Fantasy Football Factory Week 8. We got the King of the South, Mincy. We got Moody on the sticks. I am your host, Stephen Che. And as always, we're brought to you by DraftKings. Fantasy fans, you want to up your game day experience? My partners at DraftKings have a brand new way to play daily fantasy with the Pick 6 app. All new customers who play just $5 will get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download DraftKings Pick 6 app now using code FANTASY, FANTASY. It's super easy. Just pick at least 2 players, and they'll have more or less of a certain stat, like more or less than 28.5 receiving yards, more or less than half a touchdown, more or less than half an interception throw. Lock them in and compete against others for a shot at huge cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Code FANTASY only at the DraftKings Sportsbook or the DraftKings Pick 6 app. The crown is yours. Now, we have a lot to go over because we're taping this on Wednesday morning. News just broke that DeAndre Hopkins has been traded to the Chiefs. Obviously, Rashee Rice is hurt. Hollywood Brown's been out. Juju Smith-Schuster went out like super early in the game. Is DeAndre Hopkins a fantasy play for you, Mincy?
I don't know if he is this week because it's a new offense for him, and they also aren't in any kind of like a must-win rush situation at 6-0.
Yep.
So I do think he long-term, maybe so for the playoffs, I would be guarded in week 1 because he's just coming in. It's a new offense. They're playing a bad Raiders team. I feel like he may not get the high snap count his first week. But then weeks 2, 3, moving on, like long-term, I think he's a play, but I would be guarded this week.
Yeah. Moody, what about you? Are you playing Hopkins?
Probably not this week. I think this is one week where I'm going to be more in the wait-and-see territory. Like, do I think he could end up becoming the man? Yeah, absolutely. This could be an incredible situation for DeAndre Hopkins, but I just don't think it's going to be week 1. I need to see it before I can fully believe it. I do think it's a great move long-term, but short-term, I'm just going to stay away from it and watch it develop.
Yeah.
It's not like when you look at the Devontae Adams-Rodgers situation, he already knew the offense and had the chemistry with Rodgers. Neither of those situations true here. So it's not quite as seamless, but I do think it's a great fit. Like, 2, 3, 4 weeks. And if you can, obviously it's going to be hard to trade for him right now because people don't want him. But
yeah, I would be surprised if he makes a huge fantasy impact, even in like season long. Like, he's going to the Chiefs offense, certainly. He has to learn the playbook. He's got to learn the offense. He's got to get chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. We're in week 8 right now. We got 7 more weeks till playoffs. So I don't know. Maybe in the playoffs he becomes a difference maker. But if he's available on waiver on your free agent pool right now, certainly an option to take a look at. But I wouldn't have super high hopes for him.
The only thing I think that he could be good is he has some size, and they don't have any other red zone wise. I think he can get some touchdowns because of size in the red zone.
Sure. I'll start on this topic. Chris Godwin injured. Horrible situation at the end of the Monday night game. I personally hated that the starters were still in there. Listening to Todd Bowles post game, his answer did make sense. Is like Mike Evans got hurt, early in the game, so they had 4 wide receivers that they could play. I was personally of the belief, you're down by 23 points with a little under 6 minutes left. Put in Kyle Trask. Let's just kind of get to next week. Our biggest game this season is Sunday, the Bucs' biggest game against Atlanta. That is not exactly for the division, but Atlanta's 3-0 in the division. The Bucs just lost to them. This is a huge, huge game. Evans looks like he's going to be out till at least week 12. It was a deflating injury, not only with Evans' injury, early in the game, but just like he didn't need to be in the game. He's got a broken ankle. He's going to be out for the year. He was having a great season. He is a free agent. I assume that we're going to re-sign him at a very solid deal. But a huge bummer in the fantasy community, obviously, or in the football community, fantasy community especially, and Bucs community. The question I've been getting a lot is who's the guy now?
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you, I think the biggest beneficiary of this is going to be Cade Otton, who we saw have a very good game against the Ravens. Most of those yards he got were in garbage time, in fairness, which is where most of the Baker's passing yard, at least half of it, came from. But I think this team is going to be a running team. So we saw the emergence of the 3-headed backfield, which is a nightmare for fantasy managers. Rachaad White started the game. He got a series. Bucky Irving came in next, and then Sean Tucker was used the most sparingly of the group. But Bucky Irving and Rachaad White both put up good games, no matter what scoring format you're using in fantasy. I think you're going to see that moving forward. I think they're both going to be very playable. This team has become a good running football team. The receivers lack a little bit. When asked in a press conference going into the week, offensive coordinator Liam Cohen was like, when asked about a third receiver stepping up with Godwin and Evans healthy going into Monday night, he said, yeah, we really want to see a guy step up. Like, nobody's really taken that role. Sterling Shepard, who's former New York Giant, college teammates with Baker, had a nice game, I believe it was week 1, but hasn't really done anything since then. He had been kind of looked at as maybe the guy. Jalen McMillan is a rookie. He was very promising in training camp, scored a touchdown week 1, but then got hurt, missed some time. Needs to pick up the playbook a bit better. And then Trey Palmer, who was there last year, who has some game.
He can run.
But he's not a guy you want to rely on as like a number 1 or number 2 guy, especially. I think he's pretty niche. He'll have some increased opportunities. The one thing I would advise people is if they're making lineups on Sunday, pay attention to his Twitter, because every time he tweets out that he's pissed off means he's about to have a big game. And he does not do that very often, but every time he does, that is what to look for. So I don't think these 3 receivers are playable, in my opinion. I think the top 2 running backs are Sean Tucker. I'd wait on a little bit. Bucky Irving and Rashad White, very playable. K. Otton's a tight end 1 right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on Otton. And look, he had one of his best games as a pro on Monday night. He looked great.
Yeah.
He took some shots, though, man. He took some tough shots. The Rashad White thing, as annoying of a year as it's been, because he was, we were both really big on him coming in.
Yep.
He still if you're in PPR, he even when he's struggling running the ball, he catches at least 4 or 5 balls every week.
Yep.
So he fills up your stat sheet. But he showed some serious juice Monday night. He finally got in the end zone not once but twice, and he had 0 touchdowns going in. I think you're looking at Irving maybe getting a few more carries, but White also, they're going to be alternating series. White being used in the passing game, and I think White not in the target. So I'm fine with starting either Irving or White this week.
I would be surprised if both of them are not 10-plus carry game guys moving forward with these injuries until, at least we get Mike Evans back. All right, let's talk about another guy coming back for a buck, Jameis Winston, into the starting lineup for the Browns. He was the emergency quarterback. Deshaun Watson ruptures his Achilles. Dorian Thompson-Robinson gets hurt, so then Jameis is in. He will start this week. Obviously had some fiery comments about the fans cheering with Deshaun Watson getting injured, which is totally understandable. Where do you view him right now if you're ranking him? Let's go season long. Let's not go matchup dependent. But where do you rank Jameis right now, season long, as a fantasy quarterback?
So 1 through 32 is what you're saying? What, like 26, 25? You got him higher. I don't know. Maybe, 23. Because the thing is, he's going to turn. It depends on your scoring thing. If interceptions are very, very hurting you, he's going to turn the ball over. But he's going to throw for some yards. I think they'll turn it. They got Chubb back, but he's still banged up. Mm-hmm. And I do think the things that I like are Njoku. I think it really helps Njoku because I think Jameis will throw the tight end. The Jerry Jeudy thing's kind of has upside, but I kind of got to see it. I think Njoku is the guy that primarily benefits, and I think whoever the Browns are playing should be looked at as a fantasy defense.
Yeah. Moody, what about you? Where do you rank Jameis rest of the year?
Rest of the year, probably in that same range, to be honest with you. I'll say this. I think Jameis will probably come out, have an amazing week, and then he'll be awful after that, right? That's just Jameis will make this big splash, pop off for 1 week, and then he'll just fall off a cliff. I would not be surprised to see that from Jameis Winston at all. Obviously, he's a fun story, but it's not even so much Jameis. It's just there's not a lot of weapons left there either. Like Jerry Jeudy's your number 1. You don't have a whole lot outside of Njoku. I think they're going to try and run the football with Chubb, and I just don't know if that's going to leave enough on the table for Jameis Winston to be a very viable fantasy quarterback.
I got to say, I'm much higher on Jameis than you boys. I think he is going to be borderline QB1 the rest of the year. And I don't think he's like a great player necessarily. He just is going to get a ton of garbage time yards. Like, we saw it on Monday night with Baker Mayfield, and that's not a knock on Baker. That's just like the game flow is not in their favor. They're going to have to throw the ball, and they're going to get a bunch of cheap points. And I think Jameis is, honestly, he's probably around my QB 10 the rest of the year. Like, the Browns are terrible. They're not going to be in a lot of games. They're not like looking to the future and like a new prospect to try out outside of Jameis. He's going to throw for a ton of yards, and he's going to throw for a lot of touchdowns. And I think Jameis Winston is a playable quarterback every single week, especially this week against Baltimore. They're going to get shellacked, and he's going to throw for a ton of yards. They give the most passing yards in the NFL.
I see the logic. The only thing is Jameis won't run any.
You
think
think
he will a little?
bit. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's not like, he's not doing read options and taking off and doing that stuff, but he's going to scramble. He'll be good for 10 to 20 yards a game.
Okay.
Nothing crazy, but yeah, he'll usually have one.
One thing with Jameis though, if he throws 2 picks, that just negated a touchdown for you. So like he's going to have so many 2 interception games this season though. Like it's going to happen. There's no doubt he's going to turn the football over. The question is he going to throw for enough yards and touchdowns to counteract that? I really don't know that he will, Che. I'm not a big believer. I do think he might be a slight upgrade over Deshaun Watson in this scenario. But that's not saying shit because they were bad with Deshaun Watson running the show.
My prediction, Jameis Winston, average stat line rest of the year, so weeks 8 through 18, assuming he plays all those games and is healthy. I'm going to say he's going to be like 275 yards, which is high. 2.5 touchdowns.
Wow, that's high.
2 picks.
Wow, that is, 2.5 touchdowns a game?
In garbage time, yeah. I mean,
No.
like Baker threw 2 touchdowns in the last 6. Like it does. The defenses are just trying to tackle inbounds and run the clock. He's gonna get a lot of touchdowns.
Well, I'll say this, Shay. It's like a lot of fun following the big brain parlays and all the lines. You may be able to get some really good yardage numbers on him the first couple weeks.
We'll see how inflated they are. They haven't been fully out yet. We'll hit one more topic really quickly before we get into the prices.
Real quick, is Cooper Kupp going to come back this week? Because like we all thought he was coming back last week. He did, and they got a Thursday night game.
It's a Thursday night game, so I think he's supposed to be on track to play on Thursday night.
Okay.
It looks like Tua's coming back. What does that do? Like, we know what Tua is when he's there. It's not like he's affecting his running or anything like that. Like he's not a running quarterback. How do you value Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle the rest of the year? Because they've obviously both been huge disappointments.
I mean, look, as long as Tua's out there, you better enjoy it while you got it with this injury history. Really favorable matchup at home against Arizona this week. It was on a short week off that Monday night win going across the country.
Yep.
We've seen Miami in these home games with Tua. Mm-hmm. They really can cook it and score in the 40s sometimes. I mean, I know Tua's going to be rusty. He's coming off that, but he's been out a while. I don't know. I think you got to believe because the problem is the Tyreek and Waddle, when they go off, they just go so nuclear. And the thing is with this DraftKings, when you're in these contests with thousands of people, that's what you got to have is those upside guys. So Tyreek's pricing is still very, very high, but Waddle I feel like might have some more value.
Yeah, that is fair. Let's hop into the positions DFS market. Tough week for me in fantasy and DFS last week.
Hey, the big shout out to Shay. Like I said, it's good and bad. I had a terrible week last week too. I admit it. But that was the first time the Big Brain Parlays missed in like a month.
Yeah.
So, guys, I finished 21st in the AWL league. So just like a half a point out of making money. No, not nice. Because I was like, I'm going to make some money here. And then at the very end, the Packers gave up, or whoever it was, gave up points on me. And I got bounced. So I was right there in the money. And then I got kicked out at the very last second. I mean, the last few plays of the Sunday slate. It was tough.
I will say, though, 2 weeks in a row, Demario Douglas 2 weeks ago, and then last week, Jatavian Sanders, my plant your flag guy of the week, dominating. Jatavian Sanders had a great game for the value of $2,900 at tight end. All right, let's get into it. Quarterbacks, top of the market, Lamar Jackson, who was incredible on Monday night, $8,000. Josh Allen, $7,800. Then it goes down to Jalen Hurts, $7,500. Jaden Daniels, who's questionable right now, $7,300. Jordan Love, $7,100. It goes down kind of from there. It goes all the way down to Jameis at $5,200. Mincy, where do you start on the quarterback?
All right, I'm going cheap here, and this is a theory that could blow up in my face because their offense hadn't gone off. But I just feel like there's so much value in these Chargers against the Saints team that's just a dead team walking right now.
Herbert, 54.
5,400 for Justin Herbert. I know he hadn't been a very good fantasy quarterback, but I've been to both the last Saints games. You had 594 offensive yards to Tampa, 33 points to Bo Nix in Denver. Adebo out for the year now. I hate to be negative. I don't know if the Saints are going to win another game this year, dude. I mean, I think it's like 1 or 2. And when I know they had like a decent start on the year defense, but the morale is so down and they know they can't win with where the offense is. I think Herbert 5,400. I know you're probably going to go Jameis 5,200, but I'm going bargain hunting here. I'm going to go Herbert. I just think he's cheap, and I think if there was ever a week that he could have a good game, it's at home against New Orleans.
Okay. Moody, where do you stand on the?
Hey, so I am on Kirk Cousins this week against Tampa Bay. Let's be you know it more than anybody. Tampa Bay's been getting gashed, especially in the passing game. I mean, they're one of the worst teams in the league against the pass. We saw it last week. We've seen it pretty much every week except for that Lions game. They've given up a pretty sizable amount of points. Kirk Cousins threw for 4 touchdowns against them just a few weeks ago, and I don't necessarily think the situation's much better in Tampa than it was a few weeks ago. I like Kirk Cousins here. I'd love to find the money to be able to run with Jordan Love again, but I think I'm going to save the $800, roll with Kirk Cousins, unless I can find money throughout the rest of my board to go with Jordan Love. I've loved what I've seen from Jordan Love the last few weeks. He's been in my lineup. He's made me competitive, and I think he's going to have another good week against Jacksonville, but I just think the value is better this week for Kirk Cousins against Tampa Bay.
Certainly, he had a great game against. I would be surprised if Kirk Cousins had a very good game this week. And I think that the Bucs are a bad pass defense as far as the numbers, just because teams struggle to run on them, so they got to throw the ball a ton. I think overall the Bucs are a good defense. I expect this to be a little bit lower scoring. And the over/under is 46.5. We'll see where it nets out, but I've been wrong before.
I actually, it's funny. I agree with you. And I think everybody's going to see the over because the first one was 36-30 in overtime. Yeah. I think this is a different circumstance. Tampa knows they need this game. I think you're going to see a big-time defensive effort, and they're going to run the ball and not be as wide open on offense. So I think we may be looking at like a 23-20 type game here.
Yeah. Obviously, top of the board looks very good. A couple things I wanted to point out. So Jalen Hurts, he gets a Bengals team that gives the most rushing attempts. Every quarterback, 6 of 7 quarterbacks have gone over their rushing attempts against the Bengals. I would look at that. They also give the most rushing yards. Kind of goes hand in hand with that to opposing quarterbacks. That's one I would look at 7,500. 2 values that I want to point out. Obviously, Jameis Winston, we talked about him. Bottom of the market, $5,200. The Ravens give it the most passing yards a game, 308. I think that's a game going to be a blowout. Jameis going to get a bunch of garbage points. I think that is some value there. Also, a guy, Bo Nix. He's getting a Panthers team that has given up 2 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks pretty much every week. This is not a bad spot for him. I think Denver's pretty good, actually. So I think this is a decent spot for Bo Nix, who also provides some value on the ground.
He ran a ton in New Orleans.
Yeah. He had, I think, like 75 yards. Yeah. Like that. All right, running backs market.
Can I bring up one more quarterback? Yeah. Is this finally the week C.J. Stroud goes nuclear? Indy's pass defense is atrocious. However, no Nico still.
Yep.
But a home matchup against Indy, because it's like all year they've been winning, but C.J. Stroud the fantasy thing hadn't really come together. Is this like, I feel like is it ever going to happen?
Yeah, I actually was looking at something with C.J. Stroud. He has a very interesting home and away split. Give me a second on that.
Yeah, no problem. He had a good game against New England, though, on the road. I remember he had that. They won 41-21. He had that. That was one of his best games.
Yeah.
And while you're looking for the C.J. Stroud thing, I also want to mention, God, it's a gamble because he's coming off, but Tua 6,100 is really cheap. I know it's kind of like a spot, but like it seems like, if you're gambling a Miami stack here, you're getting some value.
Yeah, so listen to this. So for his career in home games, C.J. Stroud averaging 308 passing yards a game. In away games, his career averaging 210.
Wow, 100-yard difference.
A massive difference, home and away. So, yeah, I think C.J. Stroud certainly has potential $6,900 against a Colts team that certainly leaves a lot to be desired.
C.J. Stroud, the poster child for the Mets indoor theory.
Yeah, they give up the 8th most passing yards a game to opposing quarterbacks. All right, let's get on to the running backs. Top of the market, Saquon, $8,300, followed by King Henry, Derrick Henry, $8,100. Kenneth Walker at $7,800, Mixon $77,000, Kamara $76,000, and it goes down from there all the way to you can get playable with Audric Estime at $4,300. We got some $5,000 guys in there that are interesting. Who stands out to you, Mincy?
Okay, I got three I like this week. Starting with, you already heard me talk about the Chargers thing. I mean, I think J.K. Dobbins could feast on the Saints defense. It's 6,900 is not cheap for him, but I think the value's there. Kareem Hunt against the Raiders. The Raiders' run defense stinks too. And, KC's kind of doing this, like, run the ball, grind it out, do enough to win thing. So I think that means it's 6,300.
And he had, 3 touchdowns last week?
Yeah, dude, he's looking good, man. And then the other one, A-Chain, 6,200. It's not bad against Arizona. The thing on the Miami thing, it's a boom or bust thing. We don't know what Tua's going to look like coming back. But, man, Arizona's defense is bad. If Miami comes out and goes nuclear, if you just go all out with, like, Tua, A-Chain, and Hill or Waddle and they blow up, you're going to have a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Moody, who stands out to you in the running backs?
So I have Dobbins as my number one. The Saints have just been so bad against the run. That's how teams are really beating them. They're destroying them with the run. I think they're going to play from ahead in this game. They're going to run the football a lot in the second half. I love J.K. Dobbins in this spot. I'm also going to go with Josh Jacobs if I can find the money. I think there's a spot where Green Bay plays from ahead and they grind the second half of that game out with Josh Jacobs. Jacobs has been involved in the passing game. I mean, he's the clear lead back right there. I like Josh Jacobs as well. He's coming in at 6,600. So you're not really saving a ton of money there, but they're two guys that I really do like this week.
Yeah, a couple of guys I like. Joe Mixon, he gets a Colts team that gives the third most rushing yards a game. He's been hot when he's playing. He obviously missed a couple games, but he's $7,700. If you have the money for that, I would recommend Joe Mixon just because he's really good around the goal line as well. Javonte Williams gets the team giving up the most rushing yards to opposing running backs. He's at $6,000. He's also a pretty good threat in the passing game, as Bo Nix does look his way quite a bit on screens and things of that nature. A couple other guys I'd point out if you're looking for value. Alexander Madison, we saw him kind of take over, and I know he's playing the Chiefs, but we saw him kind of take over the lead role in that backfield this past week. He's also going to be catching the ball too, so I think at $5,600 for a guy who's going to get a lion's share of the work, I think he is a value despite the bad matchup. And then Justice Hill with the Ravens, $5,400 on screens and things like that. And if this game is a blowout, I expect him to get more work. So I think that he is an option at $5,400.
What's so wild, the Ravens thing, the snap count thing is like really close on him and Henry. And Henry just still's on pace for 2,000 yards.
Yeah, I mean,
freaking bananas, dude.
At least one run every game is going long. Like his long rush this week, the over/under is 19.5, which is wild. And he smashed it twice. All right, let's go on to receivers. Top of the market, Jamar Chase at $8,500, Amon St. Brown $8,400. A.J. Brown, $8,200. Then a huge drop-off to Stephon Diggs at $7,500. Drake London, $72, and then it goes down from there. We got some playable guys in the $3,400, $3,500 range if you're getting risky. But, Mincy, who are you feeling of the receivers?
I'm going Tyreek Hill, 7,000, because he's 8,000 usually when he has Tua. And he's home today. Like I said, though, it's a boomer.
Assuming Tua plays, yes.
Yeah, this is dependent if Tua plays. But if he's playing, he's got to be chomping at the bit to break out. Arizona's pass D's bad, and you're usually having to pay $8,000 or $8,500 for him when he's got a home game with Tua. So Tyreek's my gamble. We'll shoot for the moon. Amon is obviously priced high, but with Jameis Williams out, that means even more targets for him.
Yep.
But I'm going Tyreek 7,000 to save the 1,400 there.
Okay. Moody, what about you?
A couple guys I'm looking at. Romeo Doubs is number one on my list. He's really the best receiver in that group. I realize that they use Reed a lot, but he's kind of more of a gadget guy. The best receiver in that group is Romeo Doubs. He had 10 targets last week. He had 2 touchdowns the week before. He's becoming, in my opinion, the number one target there. I think he's going to continue to grow that role week after week. I have him coming in at $5,700. And then also like Darnell Mooney at $5,800. It's kind of more just the fading Drake London, taking the number 2 guy against the defense that I really think is going to have some points scored on them in that game. I like Darnell Mooney and Romeo Doubs as my top 2 guys. And I think if I was going to spend the money, you could talk me into Jamar Chase. Philly's secondary has not been very good. I think Jamar Chase has a very good game, but $8,500, man, that's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah, two cheaper ones real quick, because I'm going to let Shay take it over. Tank Dell, because we talked about that matchup of Stroud throwing for 100 more yards. Diggs is $7,500. He's priced out, but I think Dell is the number 2. He's like $53. So I like that value. And then, I keep harping on this Dolphins thing, but dang, Waddle, 5,400. Pretty cheap.
Yeah. I'm in line with Moody. I do like Jamar Chase in this matchup. The Eagles play a ton of man defense. Quinyon Mitchell is a nice player, but give me Jamar Chase 8,500. You can make that up if you go with either Nix or Jameis or Justin Herbert or one of the cheaper quarterback options. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously a very good option. AJ Brown also in the top. If we're going a little bit bargain hunting, Troy Franklin, $4,100. Gets a Panthers team. Not very good. He has that chemistry built in with Bo Nix from playing together at Oregon. He had a really big game against New Orleans. I think that is a potential one you look at. And then, assuming he is healthy, I still think, almost every week he's going to be undervalued, both in real fantasy and, obviously in DFS, or season-long fantasy or in DFS. But Demario Douglas, $4,700. He's going to get the lion's share of the targets in that New England passing game with Drake May. He is the go-to guy. Obviously, this week, he woke up with flu-like symptoms or whatever, was taking an IV. Didn't really play a lot, so that obviously impacted his performance. The first drive, 2 catches, 14 yards, and then didn't really play too much after that. So that was a shame. But that's one that I would not be deterred from. One other one I would just think about. Tim Patrick, $3,500 with the Lions. Jameson Williams being suspended. I would assume this is going to mean a little bit of an increased role for him. So Tim Patrick, $3,500.
Do you think him or Khalil Reitman gets the increased role?
I think both.
Yeah, you think both? Yeah. And the other one, the Judy's $4,800. Do you think that's worth a shot?
Yeah. I probably I think the biggest beneficiary of that in the Cleveland offense is going to be David Njoku, as we mentioned. But yeah, I think Jerry Jeudy certainly is a value, especially if you're going with Jameis.
Okay.
All right, tight ends. Who we thinking? We got Brock Bowers, who's been spectacular, top of the market, 6,100. Travis Kelce, 6,000. Trey McBride, 5,500, then goes down significantly from there. David Njoku, 5,100. Evan Ingram, 5,000, and so on. You can get guys at $2,900 with Mike Gesicki, Foster Moreau though. Minty, where are you leaning for this?
Well, Njoku's expensive at 5,100, but I like it. And then
still under cost.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you save money elsewhere. Yeah. And then I'm the other one I'm looking at is your guy, and so I'm gonna let you talk about that with the Tampa Bay passing thing. I'm gonna give you that. But he's the other one I'm looking at.
Okay, I want to save him for the Plant Your Flag because he's going to be.
Yeah, I like him. Those are the two I'm looking at this week. Moody, what you got?
I'm going with the guy that Che was high on to start the season, and that's Evan Ingram. This is a game where Green Bay is going to get after the quarterback. They gave C.J. Stroud 0 time on Sunday, and I'll tell you what is going to happen, the exact same thing this week for Trevor Lawrence. He's going to have to get the ball out quick, and Evan Ingram is his security blanket. I wouldn't be surprised if Evan Ingram caught 9 balls for like 52 yards. I think that's the kind of game that it's going to be. Get it out quick. They're going to play from behind, I think, in the second half. Evan Ingram, I love him at $5,000.
The Jags are such a trick-or-treat offense. They're either going to be unplayable or like decent week to week, and you really don't know what it is. The tight end market's so interesting because the guys that went at the top of the draft, Kelce, Laporta, not great. Whereas you have Brock Bowers, Trey McBride was top, and he's been okay. But Evan Ingram has emerged since coming back from injury at the 10-catch game. Dalton Kincaid, who was near the top, hasn't been very good. But Cole Kmet, Tucker Kraft, Dallas Goedert, like these guys, even Zach Ertz have been solid. Tight end market, I like Njoku, 5,100, especially if you go with Jameis. Kyle Pitts is a decent one at $4,400. The Bucs just don't defend tight ends very well. KJ Britt is not very good in pass coverage. There is a world where I can see him having a very big game. He had a really long catch against them the first time they played. And then, again, if Tommy Tremble is out for Carolina, I would look at Jatavion Sanders, $3,100. That is a very good value for a guy who is putting together multiple good weeks, racking up the targets. Really solid week last week, and at $3,100, I think is a pretty good value. And I'll talk about Mr. Otten in a little bit. All right, defense, special teams starts off with Detroit. $3,800. The Broncos, $3,700. Chiefs, $3,600. Goes down all the way to the Titans at $2,200. Mincy, who do you like from this group?
All right, looking at it, I mean, it's always good to go bargain hunting when you can, but, man, I just think this Jameis thing, you got to go with the guys that'll turn the ball over. So the Chargers and Ravens are both the two I'm looking at. Ravens are 3,400. Chargers are 3,300. I know they're not that cheap, but, dude, I just don't see how you don't go the Chargers. This Saints thing right now. I mean, Rattler's out there. He's going to throw picks. They can't do anything, and the Chargers have a good defense.
My only word would be, like, how much worse can it get? Like, last week, I feel like was the bottom. I feel like there's only to go up from here, but yeah.
I mean, dude, it's like your 3 starting offensive linemen out. All your receivers are out. Taysom's probably out again. Kamara didn't get an extension, but I don't know, man. It just feels like they may not win again. That's literally how it feels.
Moody, where are you leaning on defense?
I think I'm going to go with Green Bay at 3,200. I just mentioned how I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be in trouble a big portion of the game. This Green Bay defense gets after you at every single level. You better not have 3rd and 7+, or they're going to hit the hell out of your quarterback. I love what I'm seeing from Green Bay's defense right now. I think they're one of the best defenses in the league. Give me Green Bay at 3,200.
That's good. That's exactly kind of where I was leaning. Packers have the 4th most interceptions in the NFL from quarterbacks. So, yeah, I like Green Bay. I think the Chargers are a great play, too. The Chiefs also are one I would strongly consider, but they are a little bit more at the top of the market, $3,600. All right, let's plant our flags. Who is your guy you're definitely putting in your lineup this weekend, Mincy?
I said it. I feel like I need to save it. You always do a good job saving your plant your flag for the end, and I always tip it off early. But I mean, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on the Tyreek Hill thing with Tua. If Tua's back, because we're taping this early, but if Tua's back, Arizona's secondary sucks. It's in Miami. I feel like he's been waiting to break out. They hadn't been using him. He's got to be chomped. Tua and him got to be chomped at the bit. Let's go. He's only said $7,000 for him's value because he's usually like 8,500.
Yeah. Moody, who do you got? Who's your plant your flag guy of the week?
It's got to be J.K. Dobbins for me at 6,900. Mintz has alluded to it time after time during this pod how bad the Saints are going to be, and they have been the worst against the run. That's where they really seem to be having their most problems right now. I think J.K. Dobbins has a monster game, goes for 100-plus yards, has 2 touchdowns. Give me J.K. Dobbins at 6,900 as my plant your flag play of the week.
Okay, I like that. I'm going tight end, K. Dotton. He is $3,500. I think you look at, the start to his season, not very good. You could 2 target, 1 catch, 5 game to start the year. Next week, 2 targets, no catches. Ever since then, he's been pretty involved. He has had 8 or more targets in 3 of the next 5 weeks. He's coming off a 10 target, 8 catch, 100-yard game. A lot of that, as I said, was kind of garbage time when they're looking to chunk the ball. But as far as guys that Baker trusts on offense, he trusts Sterling Shepard. He has a rapport with him going back to college. Sterling Shepard can't get open that much. Jalen McMillan's still learning the playbook. Trey Palmer, nice talent. I don't think that he's going to be like a go-to guy that can, elite separator, especially in a short intermediate area. Rashad White, I think, is going to be a beneficiary catching the ball. The biggest beneficiary of these injuries is going to be K. Dotton. He is firmly a tight end 1 moving forward. I think he can be a top 6 or 7 weekly. I think he's going to be very steady in the next, whatever it is, 4 or 5 weeks that Mike Evans is out, and then probably even beyond then. So I think K. Dotton, especially this week, going against an Atlanta team, he had 4 targets, 3 catches, 44 yards against him in the first game. I like him to at least double that for this coming week. So I think, or I don't want to say at least double that. 88 yards is a lot for a tight end, but I think he's going to have a 70-yard game, might score. But I think K. Dotton's going to be a big beneficiary of this because he's going to be on the field for run blocking, but also for catching the ball. So K. Dotton is my plant your flag guy of the week. All right, good show, guys. Week 8 coming up. Big slate, so a lot more variability in lineups.
Yeah, no London game.
No London game.
Join us in the Pardon My Take League, too.
No bye weeks as well. Yes, join us in the Pardon My Take AWL League. Super fun to see everybody in there. It's good to interact with people doing that. And, it's really catching fire in the cave. Everyone is excited about their lineups. Max cashed in there a few weeks ago. I took second place a few weeks ago.
Moody just missed some money last week.
Moody's in 21st. So, yeah, everybody get in that league we're talking about in the cave where we love putting in these DFS lineups with DraftKings. Thank you, everybody, for watching. For the King of South Mincy, for Moody, I'm Stephen Shea. Good luck this week.